When I look at this chart through house lordship, I don't see an ordinary personality. I see a person whose life is being dragged toward one unavoidable theme: public karma through intelligence, work, pressure, and transformation. This is not a chart where you can say, just relax, life will unfold softly. No, this chart does not work like that. This is a Virgo Ascendant pattern. So from the first breath, the personality is wired to observe, correct, analyze, improve, serve, and fix. You don't just live life, you examine life. You break it into details. You see what is wrong before others even know something is wrong. And that is both your gift and your curse. Because when Virgo rises, the person becomes useful. But when that usefulness becomes identity, the person starts asking a dangerous question. If I am not solving something, am I even valuable? That is the root wound of this chart. Now let's get into the real engine. The first lord and 10th lord Mercury sitting in the 10th house. This is huge. The first lord is your body, personality, direction, instinct, and life path. The 10th house is karma, career, reputation, authority, visibility, public action, and professional identity. So when the first lord goes into the 10th, the person does not separate self from work. Your identity becomes tied to what you do, what you produce, what you deliver, and how the world evaluates your competence. You are not built to be invisible. You may try to stay private. You may tell yourself you do not care about recognition. But the chart does not agree. The chart says your personality must become visible through skill, through words, through communication, through systems, through analysis, through teaching, through documentation, through management, through problem solving. And because Mercury is also the 10th lord sitting in the 10th, this becomes even stronger. This is a professional mind, a career mind, a mind that can handle data, details, language, business, media, writing, consulting, technology, coordination, logic, and advisory work. But here is the raw part. If your career is unstable, your identity becomes unstable. If your work is not respected, you start doubting yourself. If your intelligence is not used, your nervous system becomes restless. If your skills are ignored, you become internally irritated, sharp, critical, and emotionally withdrawn. This is not laziness. This is misdirected Mercury. Now look at what is sitting with Mercury in the 10th. Venus, Sun, and Ketu. This is not a normal 10th house. This is a karmic public stage. Venus rules the 2nd and 9th houses and goes into the 10th. That means speech, wealth, family values, accumulated resources, dharma, fortune, mentors, blessings, higher guidance, and belief systems are all being pushed into career. Money comes through public skill. Fortune comes through professional visibility. Mentors appear through work. Your value system is tested in professional spaces. Your speech becomes an asset. Your aesthetics, refinement, diplomacy, creativity, or relationship intelligence can become part of your work. But Venus in the 10th with Sun and Ketu is not simple pleasure. It is not just glamour. It says relationships, comfort, softness, beauty, and personal desires can get burned, cut, or sacrificed because career becomes too dominant. You may attract situations where work eats into love, status eats into intimacy, duty eats into pleasure. Or your public role forces you to behave gracefully while privately you are emotionally exhausted. Then comes the Sun as 12th lord in the 10th. This is one of the most revealing placements in this chart. The 12th house represents loss, foreign lands, isolation, sleep, retreats, expenses, hospitals, institutions, hidden work, spiritual withdrawal, and private sacrifice. When the 12th lord sits in the 10th, your losses become visible through career. Your foreign connections affect career. Your private sacrifices shape your public status. You may work behind the scenes and still be judged publicly. You may carry invisible burdens, invisible roles. And Sun in the 10th wants authority, dignity, respect, leadership, and recognition. But this Sun is joined Ketu. That changes everything. Sun wants to be seen. Ketu wants to detach. So the person may be pushed into visibility but not feel fulfilled by visibility. They may get authority but feel disconnected from the title. They may work under powerful bosses, father figures, institutions, or public systems, and still feel something about this is hollow. Something about this is not mine. There can be issues with credit, issues with recognition, issues with bosses, issues with authority, issues with father-like figures. The person can be brilliant, but not always properly acknowledged. Or they may receive recognition but internally reject it because Ketu says, this is not the real thing. This is why the career path may include sudden breaks, reinventions, detachments, restarts, or phases where the person walks away from something others would consider prestigious. Because Ketu in the 10th does not tolerate fake success. Now understand the nakshatra layer. The 10th house cluster is heavily influenced by Ardra and Punarvasu. Mercury in Punarvasu gives repetition, return, rebuilding, second chances, teaching, business, communication, writing, learning cycles, and advisory intelligence. The mind comes back to old subjects and rebuilds them better. You may repeat professional patterns until the wisdom is fully extracted. But Sun, Venus, and Ketu and Ardra bring the storm. Ardra is not gentle. Ardra breaks illusion. Ardra creates emotional weather. Ardra gives brilliance after breakdown. It gives technology, media, research, disruption, grief, truth-telling, nervous intensity, rebellion, and the courage to speak what polite people hide. So professionally, this person is not designed just to maintain systems. They are designed to expose what is broken inside systems. They can work in technology, communication, research, healing, consulting, crisis management, transformation spaces, education, media, writing, analytics, psychology, occult, or any field where the hidden truth must be processed and translated. But the consequence is obvious. If the person works in shallow environments, they will suffer. If the work is fake, political, decorative, or intellectually weak, the soul starts revolting. Now let's move to the 3rd and 8th lordship. Mars rules the 3rd and 8th houses and sits in the 8th in Aries. This is powerful. Very powerful. The 3rd house is effort, courage, communication, hands, skills, younger siblings, self-made initiative, repetition, and personal will. The 8th house is crisis, secrets, occult, transformation, inheritance, hidden pain, research, trauma, sudden breaks, and psychological depth. When the 3rd lord goes into the 8th, courage goes into hidden battles. The person does not become strong through easy effort. They become strong through crisis. This is the person who learns after being thrown into the deep end. And because Mars also rules the 8th and sits in its own 8th house, the 8th house becomes strong. This person can survive intense things. They can handle pressure, secrets, emergencies, trauma, research, hidden systems, and psychological complexity better than most people. Mars in Aries is direct, fast, sharp, impatient, and action-oriented. In Ashwini, it becomes even more urgent. Ashwini wants speed, healing, repair, rescue, movement, immediate response. So this person may have a crisis response instinct. When others freeze, they act. When others panic, they move. When others avoid the uncomfortable truth, they go straight into it. But the shadow is equally clear. Anger, impatience, sudden reactions, harsh speech, risky decisions, physical restlessness, and the tendency to treat life like a battlefield. This person must have a target. Without a meaningful mission, Mars turns inward and becomes irritation, conflict, anxiety, or self-sabotage. Now look at Saturn. Saturn rules the 5th and 6th houses and sits in the 5th in Capricorn, retrograde, in Dhanishta. This is heavy intelligence. The 5th house is creativity, intelligence, children, romance, mantra, speculation, judgment, and past life merit. The 6th house is work, disease, debts, conflict, enemies, service, routine, employees, and daily struggle. Saturn owning both and sitting in the 5th says intelligence is serious, disciplined, technical, and burdened. Creativity is not casual. Learning is not casual. Even joy becomes a responsibility. This person may not trust fun. They may not know how to simply enjoy without evaluating whether it is useful, productive, strategic, or justified. Saturn in Capricorn is strong. It gives discipline, endurance, structure, long-term planning, administration, responsibility, practical thinking, and the ability to build slowly. But because Saturn is retrograde, the pressure becomes internalized. The person may carry an inner critic that never sleeps. Am I good enough? Have I done enough? Can I trust this? What if I fail? What if I am exposed? What if I am not respected? This is not weakness. It is Saturn sitting inside the intelligence house, forcing maturity. Dhanishta adds rhythm, ambition, wealth building, social status, performance, leadership, resource management, and the drive to create something measurable. But it can also create overwork, material pressure, and excessive action without emotional nourishment. So the 5th house becomes strong but not light. children, students, creative output, love affairs, intellectual projects, and speculative decisions all carry karmic seriousness. The person must learn this. Not everything you create has to prove your worth. Now, the sixth house has Moon in Aquarius, with Moon as the 11th lord. This is emotionally important. The 11th house is gains, networks, friends, audience, elder siblings, ambitions, and fulfillment of desires. The sixth house is conflict, service, health, daily pressure, employees, enemies, debts, and correction. So when the 11th lord goes into the sixth, gains come through service, competition, hard work, problem solving, crisis teams, difficult networks, and daily labor. This can give income through solving problems. It can give networks through work. It can give audience through service. But it also means friends, teams, communities, and ambitions can become emotionally exhausting. Moon in the sixth absorbs conflict. The mind keeps scanning for problems. The emotional body becomes tied to work pressure. The person may attract people who need help, correction, healing, support, or rescue. And because Moon is emotional absorption, the person must be careful. Not every problem deserves emotional entry. Aquarius makes the Moon socially aware but detached. It can care for humanity and still feel disconnected personally. It can handle systems, communities, causes, networks, technology, and ideas, but it may struggle with simple emotional intimacy. Purva Bhadrapada adds intensity. This is not a light moon. This is philosophical, stormy, internally divided, and drawn toward the deeper meaning of suffering. It can create emotional extremes, one part worldly, one part spiritual, one part rational, one part haunted. So the person may look functional, but internally there is a lot of emotional weather. Now let's go to the 4th and 7th Lord Jupiter. Jupiter rules the 4th house of home, mother, peace, property, education, and emotional foundation. Jupiter also rules the 7th house of marriage, partners, clients, contracts, and public dealings. And Jupiter sits in the 12th house in Leo, in Purva Falguni. This is a major emotional and relationship signature. The 4th Lord in the 12th can create distance from homeland, foreign residence, emotional isolation, private sorrow, spiritual retreat, expenses on home, or a feeling that peace is always somewhere else. The person may build homes, leave homes, long for homes, or search for emotional belonging in foreign or spiritual spaces. The 7th Lord in the 12th is equally intense. Relationships can involve distance, foreign partners, private sacrifices, bedroom karma, spiritual bonding, emotional withdrawal, or expenses through spouse. Marriage may not be just a conventional contract. It may feel karmic, private, sacrificial, or spiritually complicated. And because Jupiter is in Leo, there is pride, dignity, guidance, teaching, and moral authority involved. The partner may be creative, dramatic, generous, proud, spiritual, or comfort-loving. But Jupiter in the 12th can also overgive. It can forgive too much. It can justify too much. It can spiritualize red flags. Purva Falguni adds pleasure, comfort, romance, creativity, performance, relationship desire, and enjoyment. But in the 12th, it can also create indulgence, escapism, or private emotional dependency. So the raw message is this: do not confuse sacrifice with love. Do not confuse spiritual connection with relationship health. Do not confuse private suffering with loyalty. Now, Rahu sits in the 4th house in Sagittarius, in Mula. This is the emotional root disturbance. Rahu in the 4th creates hunger for emotional security, but also dissatisfaction with whatever home gives. The person may feel restless in the home, karmically tied to mother or ancestry, drawn to foreign lands, unusual homes, spiritual spaces, land matters, education, or psychological excavation. Mula means root. It digs. It destroys illusions. It pulls out the hidden cause. So Rahu in Mula in the 4th says the person cannot have superficial peace. They must investigate the roots of emotional inheritance, family patterns, ancestral trauma, belief systems, and inner instability. The person may keep asking, where do I belong? But the deeper question is, what inherited emotional pattern am I still carrying? That is the real work. There is no clean exchange of signs here, but there are powerful chains. Mercury becomes the command center because Mercury rules the 10th house cluster and sits strongly in its own sign. Venus, Sun, and Ketu all report to Mercury. Jupiter in Leo reports to Sun, and Sun reports to Mercury. Rahu in Sagittarius reports to Jupiter, then through Sun, then to Mercury. So much of the chart ultimately goes to Mercury. Translation: Think clearly, or the whole chart becomes unstable. When Mercury is used for learning, teaching, writing, analysis, skill, science, structure, communication, and sincere study, life improves. When Mercury falls into overthinking, gossip, nervousness, scattered speech, clever manipulation, or constant criticism, life becomes chaotic. Saturn is the second command center. Saturn owns the fifth and sixth and sits in its own fifth. It controls intelligence, discipline, service, work pressure, health routines, and conflict management. Translation: discipline is not optional. Mars is the third command center. Mars owns the third and eighth and sits in its own eighth. It controls courage, crisis, hidden strength, research, transformation, and survival instinct. Translation: pressure activates power. So this chart is ruled functionally by Mercury, Saturn, and Mars. Mind, discipline, crisis. Not comfort, not ease, not fantasy. This person's life improves when they accept that their gift is not to float through life. Their gift is to make sense of complexity, to turn storms into systems, to turn crisis into research, to turn pain into skill, to turn emotional instability into wisdom, to turn professional pressure into authority. But the consequences of ignoring this chart are serious. If the person avoids career responsibility, identity weakens. If the person suppresses communication, nervous tension rises. If the person stays in fake professional environments, K2 cuts the path. If the person over-sacrifices in relationships, Jupiter drains in the 12th. If the person refuses emotional healing, Rahu in the 4th keeps creating restlessness. If the person ignores health and routine, Moon in the 6th absorbs stress. If the person does not give Mars a mission, anger and crisis repeat. If the person does not discipline Saturn, creativity becomes blocked by fear. The dominant areas needing attention are clear. First, career direction. This person must stop underestimating their professional intelligence. They are meant to be visible through skill. Second, emotional boundaries. The Moon in the 6th and Jupiter in the 12th can make the person absorb too much, serve too much, and silently suffer too much. Third, home and inner peace. Rahu in the 4th means peace cannot be borrowed from family, property, or external security. Peace must be built through inner excavation. Fourth, relationships. The 7th Lord in the 12th says love needs boundaries, clarity, and conscious agreements. Otherwise, partnership becomes sacrifice. Fifth, creative confidence. Saturn in the 5th says the person must create despite fear, teach despite hesitation, and stop waiting until everything is perfect. This is a chart of a person who may appear sharp, capable, and composed, but inside there is a constant negotiation between duty and freedom, visibility and detachment, service and exhaustion, love and sacrifice, intelligence and anxiety. And that is the mystery of this chart. The person is meant to be seen, but not consumed by being seen. Meant to serve, but not become a servant to everyone's chaos. Meant to love, but not disappear into love. Meant to think deeply, but not imprison themselves inside analysis. Meant to survive crisis, but not keep attracting crisis just to feel powerful. The final verdict is direct. This is not a weak chart. It is a demanding chart. It gives career intelligence, crisis resilience, deep research ability, disciplined creativity, spiritual undercurrents, and public potential. But it also demands emotional maturity, boundaries, nervous system regulation, and honest relationship choices. The chart says, your mind is your weapon, your work is your stage, your crisis is your teacher, and your peace is your unfinished karma. And if this reading speaks to you, if you feel that your own chart has layers you have never been able to decode properly, get in touch with me for a personal reading. Because a chart like this cannot be understood through one-liners. It has to be read through house lords, placements, nakshatras, karmic chains, and the exact way your life is actually playing out. Your chart is not random. It is a diagnostic map. And when you understand it properly, you stop fighting your design and start using it with power.